First off, if you're here this morning and you're visiting with us, this is a first for us. You're experiencing this morning in real time just as we are. In the past, we've sent missions to Mexico, and one of the things that we do every year is that we sort of have a send-off, but then when they go and do the trip and they come back, we hear about it. We hear about the things that they built, the things that they experienced, and we see pictures, and we have just a recap of the trip. Mexico we don't do anymore. Now we do Honduras, and we've done that a couple of times now. We've heard the work that we do in Honduras, and we'll be hearing that from Jason when they go in July. When they come back, we'll hear about the work that they did. And it gives the congregation, for those of us who can't go or couldn't go, an opportunity to see what we've done there, to see the work that we participated in, the efforts that we spent as a congregation to go. Today we're doing something completely new. We've never been to Haiti before until this year. This is a new mission initiative for us at King of Prussia, and it's a first. And we've had several people on the screen who went from the congregation. We're going to hear from a few of them this morning. We'll hear from Kim and Harry and Elizabeth and Aya, some personal reflections on the trip. One of the things that we've been talking about for the last several weeks is the idea of being a missional congregation. And being missional Christians, having the idea sown into our heart that God is sending us for a specific purpose into the world. No matter where that may be, whether that's Honduras or Haiti or even at your job or in your family or in your school or wherever your context is, adopting the mindset that God has a mission for you, that He has a plan for you, and that He is using you in very specific ways in your context. And so the idea of being called and being sent by God, participating in God's larger mission in the world. One of the things that we've said kind of repeatedly is, God doesn't create the church and then give it a mission in the Bible. God has a mission, and so He creates the church. And the church then carries out that mission. So what you're going to hear this morning is a concrete application of several individuals who felt very called to go to Haiti and to participate in God's work there. So with that said, I'll call Kim up and they'll do the presentation, and then I'll follow everything out with a prayer, and then we'll conclude with a couple more songs. Right? It's all yours.
Good morning. Good morning. And thank you, Daniel. And I only have 500 slides, so I actually do have 500 slides. I'm only going to show you about 50. And Daniel have already indicated that it just won't be me. There'll be some others as well. But I do want to say thank you so much. And while I was in Haiti, I sort of felt that all of you were there with me and with us, because you either fried chicken, baked chicken, sang a song, played an instrument, you given us baskets, as I look at Michelle, and you gave us cash money. So you will see that all of that went to a very good end, because we truly had a wonderful time there. We built a house for the Lusama family, and you'll see them throughout the presentation, and you know that the King of Prussia Church of Christ indeed made an impact in Haiti. So this is your Haiti team. It was comprised of myself, 7 other people from the King of Prussia Church. We had one person, an elder from the Chestmont Church of Christ, and we had Larry Music, who used to be a member here. I think if you were here 20 years ago, then you know Larry Music. But he was our feet on the ground, so to speak, in Haiti, so he led us around. And then he also met a guy at the airport, I think, in Dallas about 2 months ago, 2 months before we went to Haiti, and was telling the guy about the trip. And he asked me if this guy, Sergio Ponce de Leon, could attend with us, and I told him certainly he could attend with us. So again, this is your Haiti trip, your Haiti team. We were in an area called Canaan 3, which is just a suburb, if you will, of Port-au-Prince. So again, thank you so much for the impact that we were able to have in Haiti. So this is where we worship on Sunday morning. This is a church that's in a tent. And you see people living in tents, you see churches in tents, and you see churches in all phases of construction. One of the couple of interesting things about this congregation is that when we went into the church, all the men were on one side and all of the women were on the other side. There were a few exceptions, and what I understand is that most of the churches there were established in probably the mid-50s, so they still, mid-1950s, so they still have a lot of traditions there. And another tradition is all of the women had their heads covered until we came in, of course. So it was very interesting to be there. The service was in Creole, so of course we didn't speak Creole and they didn't speak English, but we still had a good time in the Lord. So after we left church on Sunday, we went to what is a very modern restaurant. So I actually got a very different view of Haiti this trip than I did last trip. This is a restaurant that for the most part, most Haitians cannot afford to attend, but it is well attended by all of the different relief groups that are there in Haiti. So we had a very good meal, Caribbean-style meal, and had the chance to fellowship. And after we left lunch, we went to a place called the Iron Market. I cannot describe to you that experience. You have to be there. So that alone is worth going to Haiti. And actually, we bought souvenirs there. But you can bargain and barter, but also it's like all of these people see you, they know you're there to spend money, and they follow you around. So if you think you've had high-pressure sales here in the USA, trust me, you have not. So here's our first day at the work site. And what you see is the family on the right slide, I think is your right, looking on as the Americans start to survey the work site. And you also see the building blocks on the side of on the picture there. So now we are getting ready to work. And if you've never been on a construction project with the church, usually when you go to Mexico, Honduras, and Haiti, everything is done manually. We don't have cement trucks pulling up with cement for us to start mixing, for us to lay block. We have to do all of that ourselves, and that's what you see in one of these slides. We're sifting the limestone. We're sifting the lime out of the limestone bed, and then we are getting ready to build what we call the volcano so we can pour the water in and actually make the mortar. And if you look around, you see that there's not a lot of good stuff in the background. This is where people live, and you have houses in various stages of construction, or you have tents. So now we get to the experts. This is Chris and Aaron, with Aaron directing as usual. And I actually asked Aaron to go on this trip because he's been on, I think, pretty much every mission trip we've had here at KLP. And he knows a lot about how to build a house, how to build a church, how to build a roof. So everybody was a welcome addition, but he and Chris were definitely our muscle men on the trip, and Harry. So the other person in the slide that you don't know is a guy, I introduced you to him last year. His name is Sonel, and he works for Mission Lazarus, and he lives in Haiti. He also came to the United States a few years ago, and he worked here, and after the earthquake of 2010, he decided to go back to Haiti. But he had a very prosperous career here and really felt called to go back home. And I asked him if he ever planned to come back to the U.S. to live, and he said probably not, because he felt God had given him that call, and when God gives you a call, you listen. So now we have more experts. So there are a couple of things missing in this picture, because you see all these men just standing around. But then things change. I think I heard somebody say that. The women join the mix, and we actually start to get things done and build a house there. So in addition to building the house in Haiti, what we did was in the morning, the whole team worked at the work site and building the house. And then in the afternoon, some of us left to go deliver food. We delivered food to 35 families, some of them in Canaan 3, which is where the church that we worked through is located, and some in a place called City Soleil. So we did have a donor from KOP who gave us $2,500 to buy food. So with that $2,500, we were able to buy 50 pounds of rice for each family. We were able to buy a can of tomato sauce, a can of oil, and 10 packages of spaghetti. So initially, that doesn't sound like $2,500 worth of food, but we also put that food in a blue tote, which you will see later. And people are able to use these totes in various ways to run a business or just to store food or put their clothing in, etc. But the real interesting thing about the tote is that it's a tote that we would pay $3.97 for at Walmart, Kmart, Home Depot. The tote costs $20. So do the math, and right away, you know, $700 of that $1,800 went to just something to put the food in, and that's just the nature of doing business in Haiti. So I show you this picture because it was the most impactful thing that happened to me while in Haiti. We, as I just said, delivered food to 35 families. To deliver food to this family, we had to walk up a hill. And when we came back down the hill, Larry Music said, "Look, that lady is still praising us for the blessing we just brought her." So if you look at the picture, she's down here, then she's up here, and then she's up here, and then she's down here again, if you look at the next slide. And it's all about just praising us for this small deed that we did, which brought her food for a month. So to her, it was just, it was huge. And she was so thankful. I cannot express to you what I felt and how thankful she was. But truly, truly, this church made an impact in Haiti. So, while we were out delivering food, Aaron was back at the ranch taking a break. So that's not really true. We are just about finished with the house at this point, and we sort of had a lull. We were waiting to put on the roof. And Aaron was actually able to take a nap with his picture on a stone. Now, I can sleep anywhere, but I don't think I could sleep with my head on a stone. So last year when we spoke, I mentioned that the average wage in Port-au-Prince or in Haiti is $2 a day. The unemployment is 85%. That's unemployment is 85%. So if that was us here in the U.S., we would be asking ourselves, well, how would we get by? And the simple fact of the matter is they do get by, and oftentimes they get by very well. What you see here is a bartering stand. It was next door to the house where we were working. And if you look closely, you'll see food. There's some onions here. You'll see some household items. You'll see some personal hygiene items. There are just all kinds of items on this slide here. And basically what happens is that people throughout the neighborhood will walk the streets and they will exchange items for different items. So at the end of the day, you may not have started the day with onions, but you ended the day with food. You may not have started the day with deodorant, but you ended the day with deodorant. We also had someone in our group to receive $50 from a donor, and what we did was, or what the person in our group did, was made $50 available to the Luxama family so that if they want to start some sort of sustainable business, they can do so. And $50 goes a long way in Haiti. So what about the children? One side, you see a little girl just posing for us, and she was happy to pose for us, which is kind of unusual because Haitians, like other, I think there are a couple of religious groups here, think that when you take their picture, you take their soul, so they don't want their pictures taken. But she was happy to pose for us. And the other two boys are doing their homework. We went to deliver food to the previous house recipient, and these are her boys, and they were outside doing their homework. Now, one of the interesting things about Haiti, even though it's a very poor country, you have to pay to go to school, and then you have to have a uniform. So if you don't have the money for tuition, if you don't have the uniform, you don't get a chance to go to school. So most of these kids will only have the opportunity to go to school if there's a sponsor from somewhere in the world that's paying that $100 tuition or and to buy their uniform. I learned while I was in Haiti that the teachers there did not get paid from September to April. They were finally able to get paid. So there's a lot of sacrifice made by a lot of people to make life work for everybody in Haiti. So I've told you just a little bit of background information about Haiti. Harry is going to come up and he's going to talk about the spiritual aspects of our trip. So Harry.
Thank you, Kim. I like the comment. There was Harry. Thank you. Okay. Well, Kim has asked me to make some brief comments as a first-timer about the spiritual benefits about going to the Haitian trip. First, a caveat. I only was in Haiti for a week. That does not make me an expert on Haitians or their conditions. But having said that, I do have some observations and thoughts about that. So, spiritual benefits. What do we mean by spiritual benefits in the context of, in the Christian context? As I see it, spiritual benefits is something has spiritual benefit if it encourages or promotes God's Spirit to do its work of transforming a person into the image of Christ, so that he or she increasingly sees things as Christ sees things, increasingly values the things that Christ values, increasingly does things as Christ would do. And one of the things that Christ did and calls us to do is to serve each other and other people in various ways. We read in the Bible about numerous occasions about people serving, exhortations about serving. We just read the passage from James where the necessity to manifest our faith in serving others. Therefore, going to Haiti to build a house for a family, to deliver food, and to pray with people is of spiritual benefit because we are serving in the name of Christ. Also, another item I think that is spiritually beneficial from the Haitian trip is the fact that we were able to witness an active, working faith community and of Christians. When you see this, I think you're inspired to do the same, and you become more open to the Spirit of God so that you can also be a more effective community. And I'm talking here about the Haitian Christians. In Canaan 3, where we were building the house, I was told there is an abundance of churches, something like 70 or so. And so much so that the Mission Lazarus chose to work through the local congregations as opposed to trying to establish a congregation there. We were privileged to see how one church was serving its members and its community. They had a school there. They were in the process of building a bathhouse, and they were the ones that we were primarily working through to deliver food and for this house building activity that we were doing. And these Christians practice their faith in an environment of extreme poverty and hardship. When I say that, I recall the story in the gospel where Christ is observing people making contributions in the temple. And he sees the rich giving very large sums of money, and he sees a widow giving a very small amount of money. And he comments that the widow gave more than the rich. And that was because the rich gave from a position of wealth, the widow from a position of poverty. In fact, she gave all that she had. Her faith in God, in a sense, was complete in that she put her faith completely in God. The rich, though they were doing what they're supposed to do, did not have faith on the same level as the widow, because after they gave, they were still rich. And in a sense, they didn't need God in that sense. They could still take care of themselves. So in this case, the widow's faith was greater than the faith of the rich. Now, in Haiti, I saw Christians expressing and practicing their faith and hope in Christ from a position of poverty and hardship. In Haiti, not in the States, but in Haiti, I was a rich person, a rich U.S. citizen. I was expressing my faith from a position of wealth. The Haitian Christians are the ones living lives of faith from a position in a context of poverty and hardship. Theirs is, in my view, the greater faith. To see this inspires me to be more willing to allow God through His Spirit, to transform me, and so that I may one day have the same level of spiritual maturity that I saw in the Haitian Christians. Having said that, there are a few things I'd like to show you. Make sure I'm pointing this the right way. Yes. This is the trip, we go to various places dropping off food and praying with individuals. You'll see two individuals on the left there. Those are individuals from the congregation that we were working for. I believe they were deacons from there. And they pretty much at least chose some of the families that we were visiting to give food and to pray with. This was the first one that I was with where we were contributing food and praying with. This individual here, you can see her, she kneeled amongst us, and we surrounded her and laid our hands on her. And as Kim pointed out, you notice that her head is covered. That's part of their traditions for the women to cover their head when they pray. This is the house that was built last time prior to us. You can see the lady who lives in this house. She's in the middle, and again you notice how she has her head covered, and she put on that blouse just so we can know as part of the praying process there. And all this was done through the congregation that we were working through there. And this is our fearless leader helping to deliver some of the food items there in her famous hat. This is Sergio de Ponce de Leon. I think I'm saying it right. He was the one that Larry invited along. He's a Mexican national, and he was very concerned. He wanted to join the group. To demonstrate his level of commitment to the group. His mother was very seriously ill during this time period, but he still went with us. He was a great addition to the team there. And this here is the house that we finally built, and you can see the Lusanda family. Oh, can't see. They're kind of in the middle there. The wife is carrying one of the children there, and a couple of the members are holding their children in their laps. And off in the corner, in the red shirt, that is Sanel, who is the Haitian whose service was invaluable. He was a great guide in terms of guiding us through the culture there and explaining things and setting up things for us. So that's all the comments I have. Next we will, oops, I turned the wrong way. Next we'll have Ayo to make some comments.
All right. I'm not going to be talking about life in Haiti because I've only spent all of 3 weeks in Haiti, and from what I know, life in Haiti is very similar to life in Nigeria, where I'm from, and the culture is very, very similar. The way people interact with each other is very similar, and apart from that, if anybody wants to know about life in Haiti, they have to talk to my wife, because she lives there for a while. And I don't think there's enough time now to talk about life in Haiti, because we'll be here pretty much all day. So what I decided to do is talk about how the trip affected me before I left and when I came back. So I put those two passages in there, because those are the passages that kind of tied everything up for me. The first one, the Matthew passage, if anybody gets to read it, helped me make the decision to go to Haiti. Because since we joined this church, and we've been here for a while now, I can't remember, they've been going on trips, and every time I always planned to go on a trip. But for some reason, I never was able to make it. And I kept telling myself, next year, next year, next year. But this time around, when I read the passage, I know my wife volunteered me for the trip, right? And there was this discussion in the house if I was going to go or not. But I read that passage, and I talked to Kim, because I was having some financial problem at that time. And Kim told me, if it's money, don't worry about money. The church would do that. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to go. But that passage kept coming into my mind. And I also remember something a friend of mine told me a while ago before I got married. We were talking about family, because he had family. And I was telling him, okay, how did you guys do it? Because I'm not ready to get married and have kids unless I can take care of them. And he told me, if you keep telling yourself you're not going to have family until you have enough money to take care of them. You're never going to have a family. So when I read that passage, and I keep telling myself, if I keep telling myself I don't have the time this year, I don't have the money this year, I don't have this and that this year, I was never going to make the trip. So I decided, okay, whatever it is, based on what that passage said, I'm going to go on this trip. So whatever happens is going to happen. And during the time that I was there and the things that I saw, what I came out of it having to realize is it reminded me of a lot of things in my life. And the first thing that it reminded me of is you can't control things that are out of your control. No matter how much you try to control it, you cannot control it. Once it's out of your control, there's nothing else that you can do except to leave it to God to deal with it. The second thing it reminded me of is that I've been in this country almost 22 years, and I have, I would say, almost forgotten that there's a lot of suffering and misery in the world. I mean, I came from a country that looks very similar to Haiti. And I've been here almost 20 years, and I seem to have forgotten all about it. And being in Haiti for a week this spring kind of reminded me of all of those things growing up, seeing and interacting with people. You have to be, one of the pictures there is Canaan 3, where we actually built a house, and the other one is City Soleil. Canaan 3 is actually a new place where the government decided to move people, because when we went to Haiti 2 years ago with my wife, when you drive out of the airport, right there out of the airport, once you drive out of the airport and you make a right, you see a lot of, that was right after the earthquake. You see a lot of tent city all over where you go. So because the government didn't want people to be that close to where visitors will come in, and the first thing they will see will be, a tent city, they decided to move them to Canaan 3 and just tell them, go there, pick a land, wherever you pick a land, that's your land, and build a house. And these are people who have nothing. So you just get a tent from the UN and put it up, and you put your family in there. So the last thing I realized was when I came home that Saturday night. We drove from New York, I got home, we came to the church, I got home. I think I took a shower, was laying in bed, getting ready to sleep. I look around, and I realize I've been complaining about things too much in my life. And the first thing I realized was that the house we just built, the house they showed you, we could fit that house in my bedroom, and there would still be space for another one. And, that hit me, that, I don't know why I complain about things. Because this is a family of 4 that will have a house, like their house is half of my bedroom, and that's their home. And I have a, house, cars, a job, and everything. And I still complain. We always find reasons to complain about things in our lives. But you have to see how the other half, how they live, to know how lucky you are, how blessed you are in life. I mean, I know we went there to share our blessings with them, which is a great thing. But I just want us to realize that, sharing a blessing with somebody that doesn't have that much kinds of reward you. It's not going to be like a monetary or physical thing. It's a spiritual thing that you get when you do something good, and you do it of your own free will, that nobody is forcing you to do it. You get a joy in your heart that, makes you feel great. So when I came back, the second passage was something that I actually saw on Friday on my boss's. She has a cup on her desk, and it says Jeremiah 29:11. and I went and read it. And it kind of completes my whole thing for me of, when God makes a promise. I mean, that's a promise that God made to Israel. But it kind of applied in this case for me when I read it, that, there's a promise out there. There's a lot of promises in the Bible that, you can go through and read. And if you take it too hard and, you believe in your faith in God, you have to believe in your faith in God that God will do everything. Because now, all the things that I was worrying about before I left took care of itself. So now I've dedicated myself to next year. I've already started planning on going on the trip. So whatever I'm going to have to do, I'm going to start doing it now so that next year I'm going to be better prepared to go on the trip. So I'm very grateful for the church, for everything they did to help those of us that weren't completely sure if we were going to make the trip to be able to go on the trip. So I've dedicated myself to try whatever it is that I have to do to make the trip every year that they're going to be going. I'm going to do whatever I can to be on that trip. So I'm going to hand it off to Elizabeth to come and talk about the medical mission trip.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Patt. Last year was my first mission trip, which was to Honduras, and last month I had the opportunity to go to Haiti with the King of Prussia team. My professional background is pharmacy, so I'd like to speak for a few minutes regarding the need for medical care in these two countries that Mission Lazarus serves. Just to give you some background information, back in the 1980s and 90s, when King of Prussia first became involved in mission work, the nature of the work was actually medical rather than the construction type of work that our congregation is doing today. Some former and present members who were involved in these medical missions were Sally Hessel, Rick Massey, Debbie Sizemore, and both of my parents, Young and Donna O. Being in countries such as Honduras and Haiti, it is obvious that there is a great need for medical care. Unlike you and I, the people in these countries do not have access or the financial resources to go to a hospital, a doctor's office, or a pharmacy. Last month, when I was on a food distribution in Haiti, we visited an elderly lady. She walked with a crutch, slowly and painfully. She sat down with a heavy sigh and asked that we pray for her health. In addition to her pain, she was also suffering from diabetes and high blood pressure. We ended our visit with a prayer for her, but it was difficult to walk away from her, knowing that she was in need of something more, something that she was unlikely to receive in the near future or even at all. The family we built the house for in Haiti, the Lusama family, has a 6-year-old son named Kinsley who was diagnosed with epilepsy. This is 6-year-old Kinsley, 4-year-old Obed, and this is 1-year-old Sarah. And I wish you had the opportunity to meet them because they were really loving and sweet children. So again, Kinsley, who is the older son, has a diagnosis of epilepsy. And because of his diagnosis, the local school will not allow him to attend. So basically every day, his younger brother goes to school and he stays at home. Through Sanal, who was our translator, their mother, Island, expressed concern that her 1-year-old daughter, Sarah, may also have epilepsy because she had a seizure in the past. Even though we did not speak the same language, there was no misunderstanding or lack of communication when I looked at Island's eyes. She loved her children and she wanted them to be well. Our congregation has been blessed with the opportunity to be building churches and homes for underdeveloped countries. I feel, though, that there is another opportunity that is in our future, and that is serving these countries with medical care. When I look at the ministry of Jesus, I see how his words and teachings filled a spiritual need among the people. I also see how his actions filled a physical need. Over and over again, we see Jesus' role as a healer. He healed the sick woman in the crowd. He healed a man with leprosy. He healed a man with a withered hand. In Luke 4, it says, as the sun went down that evening, people throughout the village brought sick family members to Jesus. I can go on and on with these examples, but you get my point. Serving the people's physical needs was a big part of Jesus' ministry. Some of you may be hearing this and be saying to yourselves, I don't have a medical degree. This isn't something I can be a part of. Well, I'm here today to tell you that yes, you can. If it is in your heart to be involved with a medical mission, there are opportunities definitely available for you. As I mentioned earlier, both of my parents were involved with medical missions for over 10 years, and neither of them have a medical degree. And some of the duties that a non-medical person may have is organizing the pharmacy, counting out medications, sterilizing instruments, writing out patient information, and assisting the healthcare providers. My father has told me that on the mission trips he went on, most of the team members did not have backgrounds in healthcare. A typical team would be approximately 30 people from different churches of Christ across the country. Out of that 30, 2 of them might be physicians, there might be 3 or 4 nurses, and the rest actually had no medical backgrounds. There were professors, people with backgrounds in sales, computer programmers, school teachers, college students, retirees, and others. There were different people, all with the same goal of serving others in the name of Jesus Christ. Just going to show you some slides from some of the mission trips that my parents had gone on. And here's a physician who's giving a medical exam. This is actually my mother, who is just writing out some patient information for the doctor. And there's my mom again, who's just sterilizing some instruments. Here's a picture of a pharmacy, and I thought this picture was interesting. I asked my dad about these 2 men because to me they look pretty old. And the man on the right, his name was, he went by the name Creepy. And I asked my dad, I said, you know, how old is he? He looks really old. And my dad said that he was in his 80s. So I thought that was amazing, and I think that kind of shows you that age is not a limiting factor for going on a mission trip. There appears to be no maximum age. So I thought that was great that somebody as old as he was on a mission trip. And let's see. And then here's a picture of my parents there in the pharmacy, and they're just counting out the medications, separating them, and labeling them. So I'd like to conclude by saying that I do believe that my parents have given me a gift by being a part of a mission trip. And you might say they were part of the reason why I went to Honduras in the first place. And I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to go. My mother in particular saw a need, and she was determined to be a part of a ministry that tended to those needs. She wasn't a doctor or a nurse, but she had the ability to love the poor. So whether you're a healthcare provider, a teacher, a homemaker, a hairdresser, etc., I'd just like to put this out there for you to think about, pray about, and consider a medical mission in the future. Thank you for allowing me to be here today and speak to you. So I'll now hand the program over to Kim.
So thank you, Harry, Ayo, and Elizabeth. I think it's very important if you can give many different aspects of being on a mission trip in another country. So I need just a few minutes here to see where I am in the presentation here. So we ended the week with a house blessing. And the house blessing is not just for the family who received the house. The house blessing is for the entire neighborhood. And people come and they sing and they praise God. We did have a recording, and I decided that I wasn't going to show that because it gets kind of interesting up here to have to manage so many different pieces of electronic pieces. But I do want to make it available to people if you're interested in learning more about Haiti, some of us can come to your family life groups and discuss the information and show you the rest of the slide set, the other 450 pictures that you did not see. But if you look at the slides here, you see that the people around are very, very happy, and we're singing, and I did give the lady of the house a key to the house, and that's why she's embracing me. We have now handed over the key to the house to her. And so just think about it. When we want to buy a house, we go to the mortgage company, we fill out information, and if we qualify, we get the house. What happens here is that at this house blessing, at the previous house blessing, names were put in a hat, and if your name was pulled out of that hat, guess what? You were able to move out of a tent that you've been living in since 2010. So what you see here is that we've concluded the house blessing, and now we're going to find out who gets the next house. Initially, we didn't know that we were going to be able to pull names because we had not yet identified who the next house recipient would be. But during our week in Haiti, they did identify a church in Nashville that's going to come in and build a house in June. So we put the hat out there, the little boy pulled the name out of the hat, and the woman you see with her arms up like this, she is the recipient of the next house. So a very simple process, but a very needed process. And just think about it. These people have been living in tents for a very long time. And one of the things that happened to us during the week was that we were there during rainy season, and it did not rain any day that we were there. We had a couple of nights where we had showers. And then on Friday night, after we had handed over the keys, there was a torrential downpour. So this family, who would have been living in a tent, was now living in a house built by people from the King of Prussia Church of Christ. So what is the future of Haiti? I think the future of Haiti is bright, but then I'm an optimist. I think more and more people are going there, and we all know that they've had years and years of corruption, and we could talk about that. But the good news is that there's an opportunity to make a difference in Haiti. So there you have it. They started off the week living in a tent, and people from the King of Prussia Church of Christ came in with a couple other people. We built a house which is very humble by our circumstance, by any measurement that we use. And think about it, this is 2013. This house is in a city. There was no plumbing, there is no indoor plumbing, and there is no electricity. But these people are rejoicing as we should be rejoicing. So Chris couldn't be here today. He had to work, so make sure you all let him know that y'all know he went to Haiti. And finally, pray for the Luxama family. Elizabeth told you about the young man that's been diagnosed with epilepsy, and we really don't think that's what he has. He had a high fever, he developed seizures, as children will sometimes do. She is pregnant, and she was concerned that the new baby may have epilepsy as well. And again, we don't think that's the issue, we just think it's a function of the lack of medical care available to them. The father is very much involved. The older boy, Kinsley, sort of had a meltdown, as children will do, and unfortunately for him, we saw him get disciplined. The other thing that Mission Lazarus asked people when they received the house is that they have to put in sweat equity. And the father, so when we got there, the foundation was already built, and the father was very instrumental in helping us build the house that he and his family are now living in. But pray for them and pray for the baby, and I hope some ways your heart has been pricked to get involved with, if not Haiti, then Honduras or Good Works, because we are truly doing a wonderful work here at King of Prussia. Thank you.